Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever is applicable where you are. My name is Mark Evanier, and for many, many years I have been doing cartoon voices at Comic-Con International and at WonderCon. We can't do those this year, so we're doing them up here. I am delighted to have with us four of the best voice actors who work today, and we're going to demonstrate what they do a little later. First, we're going to talk to them. Let me bring them all in and introduce you to them now. Hello, voice actors.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, Mark. I am in box number 1. In box number 2 is Mara Junot.
Hello.
In she's in box number 2. In box number 3 is Mr. Maurice LaMarche. In box number 4 is Miss Anna Brisbin. And in box number 5 is Mr. Brock Powell. Thank you for doing us today. They are coming to you from their home studio.
Retroactive for Mara.
Thank you.
Yes, for everybody.
Yes. The business has changed a lot because of COVID. Everybody has a fine home studio. Everybody is working from home now. We will discuss later if this is going to change when things normalize again in this world, based on the assumption that things will ever normalize again in this world. I'm going to ask each of these people to tell us what they've done that you may have heard them in, but let me preface this by saying that voice actors in cartoons and video games, all these people do both, have frequently been under and are under what are called NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. They do a job and the studio or the people that hire them don't want them to talk about it until the studio officially announces it. How many of you are right now under an NDA and can't talk about some great job you just had? There you are. It is so far unanimous on every one of these panels I've done. I think this is the 7th one. Everybody's under an NDA. And I guess they wouldn't admit it if they weren't, because you want to think that you've got more credits than you can talk about. Mara, could you tell us what you can talk about? Where have we heard you lately?
Well, let's see. I've got a lot of NDA stuff happening this year, but animation-wise, there's a feature film called Ella Bella Bingo, and I play Henry's mom. There's a brand new series on Apple Plus called Doug Unplugs, and the main little girl, her name is Emma. I play her mom. But you probably know me from video games. I am Lisa Mincy, the librarian in Genshin Impact, Sindel in Mortal Kombat, Evelyn in League of Legends, Alaria Windrunner in World of Warcraft, and she totally is British. I don't know why I said it that way. Krista in The Walking Dead, and a few other things.
Now, Mara, you do video games, you do animation. Tell us some other categories you work in a lot.
Oh my goodness. I do pretty much everything except audiobooks. I'm the voice of Nationwide Directory Assistance, which I think they finally just got rid of, but I'm the voice of AT&T internally, not commercials. So if you call AT&T, you will hear my voice like this. I also do promos for Ion Plus and the news with Shepard Smith on CNBC. So you've heard me around.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Maurice LaMarche, sir.
Yes.
There's a couple of voices that I think people are tuning in just to hear you do. Would you do those voices for us? Give us some of your greatest hits.
Okay. That's the biggie.
Okay, Anna, let's go.
All right, moving on.
That's the trivia question voice. That's the elf burp. That's Buddy's burp from the movie Elf, which I supplied, which, as you can see, is not an actual burp, but is a sort of a syntho belch, as I call it. It's a sort of Tuvan throat vibration while turning my tongue inside out and making my cheeks echo chambers, something I've done since the 5th grade. And my brother Jason, who's 14 years younger than me, does it better than I do. But he lives in Toronto and he works, he's in horse breeding. So,
how did they decide to call you in for that?
I had done the burping for the great Wackarati on Animaniacs, where Wacko comes out on stage at on the Hollywood Bowl, and to music, the Blue Danube, he belches the Blue Danube, and so Jess Harnell says, does the ending, takes the bows, going, "Excuse me, excuse me," but I'm the one who did all the belching, and we did 3 of those. So the producers of Elf saw that and led to work.
They said, "Let's get that guy to do the belch over.
Let's get the belching guy."
Okay.
And very quickly, a character called the Brain from TV's Pinky and the Brain. "We shall take over the world. Come, Pinky, back to the lab to plan for tomorrow night," and who's based on Orson Welles.
What? I know you've been asked this before. Which Orson Welles is it based on?
It's based. I'm going to put on my do not disturb. It's based on the frozen peas outtake. That's where I really learned Wells, was listening to "We Know a Remote Farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. Every July, peas grow there." Do you really mean that? Don't you think you really want to say July over the snow? Isn't that the fun of it? Get me a jury and show me how you can say "in July" and you know the rest. So,
oh my God.
So there's that. I was Dr. Egon Spengler on the Real Ghostbusters back in the 80s. Let's see what else. "Oh, Dizzy Devil on Tiny Toons. Oh, yum, 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 yum." I am Morbo the newscaster on Futurama, as well as Lieutenant Kif Croker and Calculon, the star of all my circuits, and the Donbot and Clamps, Clamp and boss, and the Country Hyper Chicken Loyal, as well as Hedonism Bottom Bios. And I'm Prime Minister Oddball on Matt Groening's new show, Disenchantment, on Netflix.
Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops.
Follow your nose, it always knows. Kellogg's Fruit Loop cereal with natural orange, lemon, and cherry flavors. A job I did for, I think, 35 years. They just redesigned the character and gave him a new voice. But so I think I did that job longer than Paul, the original.
Oh, wow.
You did. Well, actually, Mel Blanc was the original.
He was the very first.
Sam.
He was the very first.
Now, when I think I know the answer to this. When you're doing that voice, when you were doing that voice, were you doing an impression of Paul or an impression of Ronald Coleman?
No, it was an impression of Paul doing Ronald Coleman. Yes. All the other guys tried to do Ronald Coleman. They told me that's why you got the job. They said, "You're the only guy who did Paul Frees doing Ronald Coleman. Everybody else did Ronald Coleman." So that was very fun.
And here is a picture of Mr. Paul Frees, one of the
there
great
he is,
actors.
One of the greats. I'm not at the ascot wearing point yet in my career, but I am at the turtleneck point. So there you go.
You might sound even more like him if you wore an ascot, and
I might sound like him when you hear that cry in the sky.
Wow. I've never heard Maurice. I've never heard you do Paul Frees, so that freaked me out. That was great.
Corey does him a level better, I have to say, but I do have fun doing him. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Anna, let's go to her. Now Anna is. I want to stop for a second. Anna is kind of new to the business, and she came into the business by a route that fascinates me. Could you tell them, before we get to doing voices, how did you get? First of all, at what point of your life did you decide you wanted to be a voice person? How old were you when you decided that?
I was 20, I think. 20 or 21.
So like 2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, halfway in through theater school, there were film students doing audio projects, and I did one of those, and it was really, really fun. So I wanted to do more.
And then you started doing these shows on the internet.
Yeah, I was really bored one summer and I had fun doing the voice stuff. So I started a YouTube channel called Brizzy Voices and just started uploading impressions kind of as a portfolio, just to work on fun little fan projects or like a bridged series sort of stuff, just to kind of get myself out there and do something that summer.
Did you think it was going to turn into a professional career?
I mean, I hoped the voiceover would, but not the channel. Certainly not. I just thought it'd be like a portfolio.
Were you thinking somebody will see these and hire me, or some agent will see these and represent me?
I thought someone doing like a Pokemon abridged series would be like, yeah, you can be Ash for this YouTube video.
And how did you make the transition to you have one of the best agents in the business now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a baby, but I mean, I signed with my agents at CESD just a few months before lockdown started. So, it all started with the YouTube channel, really. People seeing my video voicing 151 Pokemon and being like, "Hey, did you try this voiceover thing? You want to come to LA and read for this agency? Maybe do some cartoon stuff?" Yeah, yeah, I want that. That
Have
sounds
you
like the best.
have you been hired for any job where they're asking you to do a voice that you did on Brizzy's Voices shows?
No, not as like a voice match or anything like that. No.
Okay. So tell us some of your professional work you've done. Probably a lot of it hasn't been on the air yet.
Yeah. Well, in the recent Final Fantasy VII Remake, I play Katie, who's in Sector 7, and she's just ready to let you know that the tally of monsters slain has been updated, and she's just telling you you're doing a great job and to keep it up. She's just so happy for you. In the game Monster Prom and Monster Camp, there's a Dahlia. She's a super buff blue demon babe, and she's just ready to go on a date and crush your skull in the same night. Yeah. But yeah, weirdly, it's the YouTube channel that I am most known for.
Okay. We'll give you the address of the YouTube channel again later. Brock, tell us how you got into you used to come to the cartoon voice panels we did at Comic-Con.
Yes.
Me too.
Did you too? I
Yeah.
thought you looked familiar.
We have had quite a few people who came to those panels who are now on those panels. And do you know who was on the very first cartoon voice panel that I did at San Diego?
Oh gosh, I'd have to guess. Was it Dawes Butler?
No, I never got Dawes.
Oh.
Never got a chance. Okay, I had on that panel. It was Greg Berger,
Oh wow.
Joel Askey, Rob Paulson, and Maurice LaMarche.
Oh, I was on your very first.
Very first one, yes.
Oh, I'm so honored.
Yes.
I thought I was walking through this tradition. It was great.
No, it was
Brilliant.
the first one we ever did, and
Oh, wow.
we turned away. We had a fairly small. I think the room sat 300, and we turned away 1,000 people.
Oh my God.
And the next year they gave me a larger room that sat, I think, 700 people, and we turned away 1,000 people. And finally, gave me the room we have now at San Diego, which seats 3,200 people. And each year we turn away 1,000 people.
Wow.
And they're the same 1,000 people. They
Those
never
poor
get in,
thousands.
no matter what they do. Anyway, so Brock, how did you start in voices?
Well, I think what I would say first is, like so many people, I started as a fan first, and you're right. I attended the voiceover panels, and when I went to college, very similar to Anna, I had a very similar kind of epiphany where I was like, oh, I was a theater major. I was graduating in, I think, 2011. I did. And I was like, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And I was taking this crazy trip around the world that my college at the time was like, hey, you can take your college credits that you don't need. And I was a theater major taking Cold War history and went to Russia. I took Spanish, went to Argentina. And I had an epiphany while I was in Israel, of all places. Someone I never spoke to on the trip was like, what do you want to do with your theater degree? What's the weirdest thing you could see yourself doing? And I'd never said it before. I was like, I want to be a voice actor. I want to voice Disney characters. And when I came home, I'd never felt that way before. I never realized that all the things I did to impress my friends or flirt with people in high school was an actual profession. And then I got out of college. My first job was at Disneyland doing a voice with a couple other actors who are still working today in the business. Joe Hernandez, who's a good friend of mine, Isaac Robinson Smith. We all got started there. And then now I work for Disney full time, pretty much, on a couple different series, and one series that's coming out in October. And then I was just in the Phineas and Ferb movie not too long ago as the Vlorkel, doing a lot of creature stuff. I've gotten to work with my idols and was mentored by Bill Farmer, who in turn was mentored by Dawes Butler. So in the kind of like Return of the Jedi sort of hierarchy, Dawes is sort of the Yoda to my Obi-Wan, which is Bill. And I guess I would be Luke Skywalker, so I should lose a hand.
In every one of these voice panels, we at some point find ourselves talking about Dawes Butler,
Have to.
who I thought was the greatest cartoon voice actor who ever lived. Not to slight Mr. Blank, who's right up there also, but Dawes was also a teacher. He taught an awful lot of people who now have big careers. Oops,
Yeah.
why is this not going off? There we go.
Corey Burton,
And-
Nancy Cartwright, Bill.
Yeah, Greg Berger, Greg Burson, who took over a lot of his roles for a time, was a student of Dawes's, and he had the most wonderful workshop. He would do this thing in his garage. Basically, he had a little house in the back of his house, and you'd go there, and he charged a lot of money to come to his class. It was $10 a session. That was what he charged, because he just loved young talent so much. He didn't want to make money off it. He just was trying to weed out the people who, and you couldn't get into his class unless he thought you had talent. He wouldn't take you for any amount of money if he didn't think you were good. And Bob Bergen mentioned on one of these panels that Dawes was the first voice teacher he ever had who said the word acting to him. And that's a very key thing to what you all do. Brock, you want to do a voice of somebody?
Yeah. So people know that I was the voice of the Kool-Aid Man starting in 2015. So, oh yeah. So really, verbose character, and had a lot of fun doing with that. I recently actually ended our relationship. Kraft and I have moved on. They're using a new actor now, and I passed the picture on, and very happy to do so. And other people know that I'm working a lot on the Big Hero 6 shorts that Disney's been putting out, which are coming out. We just had one that went to Sundance, which was crazy. It's called Fred's Glitch, and you can actually find it online. There's a legitimate way to find it. I think eventually it'll be on a streaming service, but I provided the voice of Gertie, and I was really excited about it because obviously that was a reference to Winsor McKay's Gertie, and it's really cool to just see. Working in animation, I'm constantly reminded that everyone is a nerd about it. The animators, the writers, the voice actors, and we all just nerd out about what we do. I was in Game of the Year 3 years in a row. I was in God of War as the voice of the Dark Elf King, which is the first boss people fight. I was the voice of Hanbei the Undying in Sekiro, Shadow Dies Twice. And then most recently, I was just some incidental characters in Last of Us Part 2. So been really exciting, a lot of fun.
Thank you. Now I'm going to ask Brock this question and go back through all of you. Who have you worked with that you were really excited that you worked with it? Now it can be in a live session, or it can be like this, when everybody's in a little box or something. You looked around. I mean, everybody's had this moment. They look around. They go, "Oh my God, I'm in a session with blank," or "I'm working with this person." Brock, who was the person for you that excited you?
Well, present company included. I mean, every time I get to see Mo and work with Mo, and I think we did Rise of the TMNT, not together, but we were on the show together, which was cool.
Yes.
Rob Paulson. I freak every time I'm with Rob.
Me
Rob's
too.
Yeah, right. Rob's podcast, Talking Tunes, was the thing that bridged the gap for me, because I told you this whole story about the Disney job, but I was working a side job as a janitor at night. I had no idea how to get started, and it was Talking Tunes that had Bill Farmer on, where Bill gave his address, where I wrote Bill a letter. And so just as much as Bill has been my mentor, Rob has been a hero and an inspiration, and actually made this a tangible career for me. So when I worked with him, he was directing the new Ninja Turtles for Nickelodeon. I got cast as billionaire guy eccentric, who was a sort of TJ Miller sound-alike guy. And I got to work with Rob, and I would never have been there if it wasn't for him in the first place. And it was just unbelievable. So,
Anna, who have you worked with that you were excited?
I was going to mention Rob too. I mean, just about all of my voiceover jobs have been individual recordings, but Rob's podcast was one of the first things I listened to in 2012 when I started wanting to get into voiceover stuff. And then a few years later, we were guesting on a podcast of a mutual friends together. A few years after that, he was eventually on my podcast. And then eventually I was on Talking Tunes, and it was a crazy full circle moment similar to this, even though we've never worked together in a cartoon vocal booth before. There have been microphones, but there was also Gray. Delisle was one of the kindest supporters of my YouTube channel since I started it, and she's always been so encouraging and offering to introduce me to her agent if I moved to LA, and just letting me shadow her jobs and like talk to her about everything over lunch. And she eventually agreed to be in a live action fantasy short film that I made called Dreamstone a few years ago. And sometimes I just randomly remember that fact, and still doesn't feel real that she just agreed to do that out of the kindness of her heart.
She's a very wonderful person. Mo, who was the first? Now, I first knew Mo as a stand-up impressionist and a comedian. I saw him on, I think it was on that special with Rodney Dangerfield. And I saw him
The
in other
ninth annual
places and
Young
such.
Comedian Special.
And
Yes.
he was just, I'm very fussy about impressionists. He was one of the first guys I'd ever seen that I really thought was nailing impressions that other people weren't doing to death. He was doing, because there's a lot of guys
Thank you.
who can hear someone do Ed Sullivan and then they can do Ed Sullivan once they've heard, and they do the Ed Sullivan, the Will Jordan Ed Sullivan or the John Biner Ed Sullivan. But you were doing unique voices
Thank you.
that nobody else was doing, which means
That means a lot to me.
And
That was
then-
always what I wanted to do.
and I suspect there are people in this world today who do impressions of William Shatner who are really doing impressions of you doing William Shatner. In fact, these days, William Shatner sounds like he's doing an impression of you
He does.
doing William Shatner.
He does. What I would do in my stand-up days, and even now when I learn an impression, I go, all right, what are other mimics missing? Let me find the thing that's coming from the real guy, rather than do an impression of their impression. I challenge myself not to do that. So yeah, I mean, coming from the world of stand-up, that's how I got my start. I mean, there wasn't YouTube and there wasn't a voice panel to come to. Voiceover was this elusive thing, and I remember my first agent was SBV, but only for on camera, and when I said, I do a lot of voices, I heard that you could do voiceover work. Yes, sir. I was talking to Dick Barth, and he said, "No, that's a closed door. Rita's got she's got people that sound like you, do the voices you do. Don't worry about it. It's just go out on play an Arrowhead Man, And so I couldn't get arrested on camera, and I couldn't get into their voiceover department. But it was one of those things where I saw it as something that was unattainable. And then Nina Nisenholtz from the William Morris office, she kind of originated the voiceover department, was in the audience while I was doing stand-up and doing my act, and said, with all the voices you do, you'd be a natural for VO. And so I was the first client she ever signed that wasn't like grandfathered in as a William Morris celebrity. And she sent me out for a full year before I got my first job. But the first thing I did was a Southwest Airlines commercial, and then I did a episode of The Littles, and I got to work with the actors, and their real names won't come to me right now, unfortunately. Alvy Moore, and Alvy Moore, and the fellow who played Ebb on Green Acres.
Tom something.
Yeah. It won't come to me, but those were I was like, wow, I'm working with two heroes of my childhood on a show I actually used to watch. That was the thrill. And then Wolfman Jack on a show called Wolf Rock TV. So, I just came out the gate with being in recording studios with people that I watched as a little kid. And then I got to do Inspector Gadget was the first big job I had, and I was working, 22 episodes in season 2. They'd done the first 65 up in Canada, and they recast everybody when they moved the show down here because Don was done with his supermarket sitcom that he was shooting in Toronto. And Don Adams, I'm sorry, yeah, Maxwell Smart, Inspector Gadget, and so I got to take over the part of the chief, and I just heard all these fantastic stories about them making it Get Smart from Don, because we'd record 2 pages and then do a 10-minute break because that Don wanted to tell another story. And he was a great raconteur. And I have here, I'm not going to go get the thing you said, but of all the memorabilia I have in my office, we are in my office right now, this is the most meaningful. This is an action figure of the chief from Get Smart, an action figure of Ed Platt. And the reason I have it is because Don told me, he said, the reason that Get Smart worked was Ed Platt was the moral center. And not only was he the moral center, but he played it as drama. He knew the secret of comedy was to play completely straight against Maxwell Smart. All the other people that they want. He could have been a sitcom. Max, what are you doing? And Ed instead played it as though he had a migraine headache because he was starring in a drama about the Secret Service, but he had to deal with this one idiot named Maxwell Smart. And that's why Get Smart worked. It was a very generous thing for him to say, but it happened to be true. So I have this to remind myself to always play the realism. When I play Brain in Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, I play him straight. I don't try to look for the joke. I try to look for the annoyance and the true stress of dealing with Pinky. And so, so I try to remember that. And then finally, last childhood hero I'll mention, because I really don't believe that I got to work with him, was Eric Idle, played Pinky's parents. So I actually got to work with one of the Pythons. And so Eric played both of Pinky's parents. And that was just awesome for me. And my Dawes Butler brush was that I did his very last Captain Crunch commercial. And yes, he even managed to teach me in that commercial a little bit about how to bring about a voice with your placement and your chest and all of that sort of thing. So I was in his last Captain Crunch commercial.
Do you remember, you came in one time to audition for a show I was directing, and as you were leaving, the next actor was arriving, and the next actor was Tim Conway.
Oh, God.
And you fell to your knees in
I
front
did.
of him.
Yes.
And he looked at me, and he looked at you, and he looked at me, and he said, "What is he doing?" And I said, "He's doing Dorf." and you actually, and you felt like about Tim Conway the way I felt like Tim Conway.
Yeah, I mean, the man's a god. The man was comic timing personified.
Yeah. And we didn't hire him either. So anyway. Mara, who have you worked with that really impressed you?
Well, I mean,
name drop someone.
First off, I'm just freaking out that I'm sitting next to Maurice LaMarche. I mean, come on, like that in itself is crazy. But like,
just a lucky class clown, Mara. That's all I am.
Right, sure.
One of the themes of these panels we do, the underlying theme of most of these voice panels I do, is that people watch these and they watch the faces of the people who aren't talking. How voice actors are such huge fans of other voice actors.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch the one we did with Rob Paulson, he is just, and we had Deborah Wilson in that one too, and I think, and they're just, it's a mutual. You get sick of these people talking how they love each other.
Totally.
But right here, all of us, love being around each other, even this way. Mara, I've interrupted you. Now go ahead.
Oh, no. Let's see. In addition, about 2 years ago, I got to be in a episode of a show that I don't know if I can say yet. So I'll just say I got to sit next to Frank Welker, and that was amazing. And he was so nice to me. I was sitting there like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like Jim Cummings had just walked in the room and Frank, and I'm like, how the hell? And he was so nice, and he like pat me on the shoulder. He's like, you're gonna do great. And I'm like, okay. And let's see, it is going to be coming out late this fall, I believe. A feature film called Fireheart. I didn't get to work with him directly, but I just found out he's going to be part of the cast. I'm a huge fan of Kenneth Branagh and William Shatner. They're both going to be leads in the movie, so it was pretty cool. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I woke up one day and saw an alert from Google that my name was in some Deadline and Hollywood Reporter article. I'm like, how the hell is this happening? And then I see what was going on.
In case you missed it, Mo just did a facial William Shatner impression. Totally.
Yes.
All right.
And last but not least, I mean, one of my biggest VO heroes, Jennifer Hale. We got to be characters together. Again, didn't get to meet directly, but I've coached with her a couple of times, and we both got to play against each other in Mortal Kombat 11. So that was unreal.
The first time I ever directed a cartoon, I started as a writer, and I now usually direct what I write and write what I direct. They let me direct a voice session. I said I would do it for nothing if they would let me cast it and cast all the people I wanted in it. So I cast a foolproof cast. This was my cast for the first cartoon special I ever voice directed. Dawes Butler, Bill Scott in his first non-J Ward role, Frank Welker, Tress MacNeille,
Wow.
Peter Cullen, Marvin Kaplan, and Howard Morris,
Oh my
and
gosh.
all those people. And a rhesus monkey could have directed the show with those guys.
Yeah, what did you do?
It was just, I just said, okay, that's your microphone, that's your microphone, that's your microphone. Let's roll it, and every take was usable. Every take was wonderful.
Wow.
I had him. The network was behind me saying, "Have him do it again." I would have taken the first takes on everything if it had been up to me. We're going to now show people what you do. Would you grab up your scripts that you all have by now? This is what is called a cold reading. These people have not read this script, and they don't even know which parts they're playing yet. This is not the way cartoons voices is usually done, but it's more fun to do it this way. We are going to be doing the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Mo, you're going to be the narrator, and you're going to be Baby Bear. For the narrator, I would like you to use a different voice, a celebrity impression, and would you make one of them a please Dudley Moore for me? I love that impression. All
So
right?
every time the narrator speaks, you would like me to change voices.
Change voices. In fact, everybody, you can change voices anytime you want, even if you're only playing the same character. I don't care. This is show your versatility off. But you'll be the narrator and you'll be Baby Bear. Brock, you're going to be Papa Bear. Anna, you're going to have two roles here. You're going to be the role is Mother, and you're also going to be you're going to be Mama Bear. Mama Bear and Mother. And Mara, you are Goldilocks.
Oh goodness.
Now,
all right.
You do not have to stick to one voice. You do not have to give an appropriate voice for the character. You do not have to stick to the lines. And we are going to also see how fast we can do this, because then I'll have more time on the end to talk to you about other things here. I'm going to give you not enough time to mark your scripts. While you are marking your scripts and getting ready for this, I'm going to make my little speech that I always make when we're doing this in other cartoon voice panels. Excuse me, I'll be full screen for a moment here. One of our little crusades that sponsors a lot of these voice panels is my campaign to get people to not throw good money or at bad voice teachers. There are some wonderful voice coaches out there. There are wonderful classes. There are fine people. There are also some terrible people who exploit talent, and also they exploit non-talent. They tell people who are not ready yet to take lessons, oh yes, give me your money and I will make you a professional voice actor. You will very soon be taking all the jobs away from Eric Bauza. Whatever, just keep giving me your money and eventually I will make you a star. Be very cautious. I will tell you that the best voice teachers these days are people who are actively working in voice work, either as actors or as voice directors. There's a few exceptions to that, but not many. Please be cautious. And if you have, if someone offers you lessons and they want to charge you a lot of money, check with somebody in the business. You're going to, at the end of this, we're going to tell, the Twitter handles and Instagram feeds for these people. Maybe some of them would warn you away from someone or recommend you to someone. It breaks my heart, some of the things I've heard about people spending basically their life savings to get worthless lessons. End of commercial. Let's read a script. Here. All right. This is the story of Goldilocks and Three Bears. Mr. LaMarche, you have the first line.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. She was called that because she had golden locks of hair, and she was very beautiful.
Hello, my name is Goldilocks. I'm called that because I have golden locks of hair and I'm very beautiful.
One day, she told her mother she was going to take a walk in the woods. She was going to take a walk in the woods, and her mother gave her a warning. Wow.
Mother of mine, I'm going to take a walk in the woods.
Do not go into the North Woods, my dear! There are wild animals in the North Woods and they like to eat little girls! Especially little girls with golden locks of hair!
Don't worry, Mother dear. I will not stray into the North Woods.
But the trouble with Goldilocks was that she never listened to her mother, and it often got her into trouble. On her walk, she came across a sign, the best sign I've ever seen. Nobody made signs like this.
La-di-da-do-do-do. What does that sign say? Warning, now entering North Woods. Little girls beware. Oh, I'm sure they won't bother me. Do-do-do-do-do.
She continued merrily along her way on a path that would make her right past a big wooden house. In that house, there lived 3 bears. A papa bear,
Hey, Mama, when's lunch going to be ready? I'm starving.
there was also a mama bear,
I'm serving it right now, Papa. Siéntese. Sit down at the table, and I'll give you a big, steaming bowl of my delicioso porridge.
Porridge again? Cobra!
I thought you loved my porridge.
I eat your porridge. That doesn't mean I love your porridge.
and lastly, there was their son, who was known as Baby Bear because he was a baby bear. Oh, goody! I mean, look at it. Mama does make the most delicious porridge. Give me some of that, okie doke.
Oh, you see, Papa? Someone here appreciates my cooking.
Oh, it looks hot, but I can't wait. Oh, my porridge is way too hot.
Ooh, let me try it. Ooh, my porridge is way too hot. My biscuits are burning.
I don't know who you are, but by the time this porridge cools down enough to eat, we'll starve to death. All of us.
Baby Bear is right. I mean, Papa Bear is right.
Oh, everything will be nonsense. Nonsense, my child. I know what we'll do. We'll go for a walk in the woods. By the time we get back, the porridge will be perfect.
And so, that's just what they did. They went for a walk in the woods, and being very trusting bears, they didn't even think to lock the front door. I find their lack of caution disturbing.
Don't know why we have to always eat porridge, How about some real food once in a while? Eat?
But you love my porridge, Beast Boy.
I love porridge. I love it.
Quiet, son. Let me tell you what real food is. Mama.
A few minutes later, who should wander past their house but Goldilocks.
I guess I made a wrong turn. I should go that way, or maybe this way, or that way.
I'm lost in the forest. I'm hopelessly, totally lost, and no one will ever find me.
Oh no, I know who will find me.
A bear will find me and eat me. Oh,
Maybe the people in this house will help me.
She ran out to the front door and knocked, but no one answered. You know, my father never answered the door either. He was a fiend. In fact, the door slowly opened on its own.
Hello? Anybody here? Anybody? Is anyone here? I'm lost in the forest and I haven't had anything to eat. I'm hungry and I'm tired. What's that? It smells like porridge.
Her nose led her to the dining room tattoo, where she found the 3 bowls left bare by the 3 bears.
Oh, mon ami. I hope the people who own this house don't mind if I eat a little bit. Oh, this porridge is so too hot. Maybe this bowl. This porridge is too cold. Maybe the third bowl. Oh, this porridge is just right. I'll eat just a little.
But Bob, she gobbled down every last bit of porridge. And then she staggered into the living room and she sat down in Papa Bear's chair.
Oh, this chair is too hard.
That is right, Tattoo. So she tried sitting in Mama Bear's chair.
Oh, this chair is too soft.
Finally, she fulfilled her fantasy of trying to sit in Baby Bear's chair.
Ah, this chair is just right. Oh! Oh, no. I broke that cute little chair. I need to find some place to lie down.
Oh, she staggered into the living room or the bedroom where she found 3 beds. Oh, fantastic. She decided to lie down in the biggest bed, which was Papa Bear's bed. Oh, wonderful.
Oh, this bed is too hard.
Oh, so she switched to the next largest bed, which was Mama Bear's bed. Oh,
No, this bed is too soft.
and finally, she lay down in the smallest bed, which was Baby Bear's bed.
This bed is just right.
And as she was fast asleep, the 3 bears were returning home. Oh, fantastic. More calling Olsen. He'll be next.
Why do we even have to have porridge for lunch, Mama?
Mr. J, someone's been eating my porridge.
Oh. So someone's been eating my porridge, and whoever it was has eaten it all up.
Mr. J, look over there in the living room. Your rocking chair is rocking all by itself.
And the seat is warm. Someone has been sitting in my chair, Rick.
Someone's been sitting in my chair. That ghastly sound was coming from the bedroom.
Gosh, follow me.
Slowly, cautiously, they tiptoed into the bedroom where they found.
Hi-ho, someone has been sleeping in my bed.
Someone's been sleeping in my bed.
Someone's been sleeping in my bed, sweetheart, and she's sleeping in it right now.
I hear somebody. Who's here? Who's...
Goldilocks screamed and ran from the bear's house all through the woods back to their home. She never disobeyed her mother, and she never went into the woods again. As for the 3 bears, from then on they kept their doors locked. Oh, and Mama Bear learned how to cook something besides porridge.
Daddy Pig, for dinner tonight, I'm going to make a roast chicken.
Hey, finally, even. Something poultry, even. Exit, bon appetit, even.
Stuffed with porridge.
Oh.
Hey, that's good eating.
Thank you, cast. Very good. Cameos by Dawes Butler characters. We all
Yes,
love
of
Dawes Butler
course.
characters.
Yes.
I once took Dawes to lunch. We were at the Old Nibbler's restaurant on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, and we're waiting. And the people before us were being shown to their table by the hostess. She said, "Right this way." And one of these guys, having no idea who he was standing next to, Dawes, did a bad Snagglepuss impression, and he did exit stage left. And Dawes looked at me, and suddenly Snagglepuss, the real Snagglepuss, was saying to me, heavens to plagiarism. And you know, it's interesting. When I was working with Dawes off and on, he was offered a lot of on-camera roles, and he turned them all down. He just didn't want to do that. Mel Blanc did on-camera roles. June did a couple of on-camera roles. You know, we were talking about Green Acres. We showed it at June's memorial service, her on as a character on Green Acres. She had a part on Green Acres for a while. Paul Frees did on-camera stuff occasionally. Have you any of you turned down on-camera work because you don't want to be in front of a camera?
Yeah, I don't.
Only because of nudity.
They wouldn't let you do any? Okay.
I took when I was doing Real Ghostbusters, we were like on episode 3, and I got offered a film called $1 Million Mystery. Again,
shameless ripoff of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yes, it was. And I went, they'd seen me at the Comedy Store, and they had written a part for a cop who does impressions. And I went in and met with Dino De Laurentiis, and my manager convinced me that to be on location for 6 weeks in Arizona and miss out on however many Real Ghostbusters was not a great move, because when they floated the idea by the folks at Deke, they said, well, we'll just recast. We only got 3 episodes in the can. We'll just recast. And he said, this picture isn't going to do anything. And so I turned down a part in a Dino De Laurentiis film. Kevin Pollak ended up doing it. And it was the first thing Kevin had done on camera. And for him, it was a launching board. You know, it was a launch pad, although one could argue that Willow was really his launch pad. But it was 6 weeks of experience in front of a film camera. And I've never regretted it. I've sometimes wondered. I mean, they went so far as to call me directly at home and say, "We'll put your girlfriend in the picture too." I mean, they wanted me for this. I've never been so wanted for a project in my life, and I still turned it down because I thought, you know what, this voiceover thing is pretty cool. I've done Gadget. We've got 65 episodes, 78 episodes guaranteed of this, and I'm just finally starting to heat up in this world of voiceover. And so I've never regretted it. And but now I'm at the point where I say no to nothing. If because I've got all these young friends, that are coming out of film school, or they're doing their own YouTube things. There's a comedian named Joe Quazala who's put me in 3 of his films. Just young up and coming guys. And I will literally do anything except nudity. If anybody wants me to play the dad, the mafia boss, the Charles Manson's dad, I played in one thing. I mean, I decided, you know what, maybe now I'm coming into a bit of a character thing, where my face works and my physique works for character work at the age of 62. So yeah, now I'm starting to do on camera. It's fun.
That pattern is not uncommon in this business. I knew Frank Welker when he was still doing on-camera stuff. In fact, the first time I worked with Frank I was the head writer on a Bobby Vinton special for CBS. Frank was in the cast. We had Eve Arden and Gail Gordon in it. That's
wow!
I was excited to work with, and we had Fabian, which was exciting.
Sure.
So and Frank at that point was occasionally running off to Las Vegas to open for Diana Ross and people like that. And he made a decision around that time. I think I'll get my finances a little more stable before I do more stand-up, and I'll stay in LA, and I won't miss casting season. I won't miss, and he basically never went back to opening for Diana Ross or anyone like that. He was working so much. I believe there was once a day when he did 7 voiceover sessions in the same day.
Sure.
He was working so many shows. Joe Barbero once said to me, when you have a new character, when you invent a new character and you're looking for a voice for it, it's very important to audition everyone in the business before you hire Frank Welker. That was the thing there.
Frank was, I never took a voiceover class, but working Gadget and Ghostbusters, but especially Gadget, Frank was my teacher. I mean, he was absolutely my mentor. He taught me the techniques of of creating characters just by looking at them and not making noise. He taught me all the technical stuff. And I knew Frank as a friend for a year before I got into voice. In fact, he would recommend me around town. He would say, "There's this new young impressionist you guys got." Ginny McSwain would have me in and said, "Oh, you're the guy Frank Welker's been telling me about." And Andrea Romano the same. But I knew him as a friend through Howie Mandel, because they were probably the last on camera thing Frank did was this Laugh Tracks, this comedy show. Yeah. And so he was just, and Howie was my best friend, and we came out of Toronto together. So I knew Frank just as a pal, and I just saw it as this unattainable thing. And so he's
Do you know the story about Frank auditioning for Howie? Do you know this story? It may be apocryphal, but this was told to me, and Howie told this to me, but I'm not sure he was kidding. Frank was in doing an audition for a beer commercial, a radio beer commercial, and they wanted a goofy voice, and he did a voice, and they said, "What else you got?" And he did like 15 different voices. And finally he does one, and they said, "Oh, that's the voice we want. That's the one we want. We're going to record this." And he looked down, and his hand was like this, which was Howie's gesture. He was doing his Howie Mandel impression without realizing it. And the voice and the gesture told him, "Oh, you're doing Howie." He slipped into it incrementally. So they said, "We want that voice." And he said, "Well, you can't hire me to do that voice. That's Howie Mandel." And they said, "Who's Howie Mandel?" And he said, "Oh, he's a stand-up comic. He's on St. Elsewhere. He does this and this and this." And they said, "Well, that's the voice we want." He said, "Well, then you got to get Howie to do it." So, and I think this part, I doubt this part was true, but the idea is that Frank then called Howie and said, "You want to do a beer commercial? They really want you." And Howie said, "Oh, do I have to come in and audition?" And Frank goes, No, I auditioned for you.
Nice.
I did your audition." Anyway, I don't know if that's true or not, but it is true that Frank recommends other people. You're not.
He always does. He
tell
will
that story.
He will always put up somebody if he feels they're more right for the job than he is. He's that secure, which is beautiful.
If I could tag in with a Frank Welker story, I only have one. I met him at a callback, auditioning for a voice he originated.
Wow.
And I had no idea he was going to be there. And it was a revamp of a show that I won't name. It's out, but that doesn't matter. Frank did everything and has done everything. I had an audition for 2 different characters, and so they were going to break it up. And something had happened where Frank had a session, and so they needed to have me do both together. And they did not tell me who was coming in after. They just said, the other actor needed to move around, so if you don't mind just doing back to back. And literally the worst thing a casting director could do is this to an actor, which is, "Hey, what time's Frank Welker going to get her?" And as I was leaving the callback, Frank was coming up the staircase. We had our first and only interaction, and neither of us got the job auditioning to do what Frank did. So that's LA.
No, he's done that for a lot of people. Other people have told stories about Frank recommending them, and sometimes going to directors and say, and sometimes it's like, this guy needs to make his SAG health insurance. He needs one more job before the end of the quarter and such. And it is the only business of acting where people recommend, no, don't give me the job, give the paying job to somebody else. It's one of the earmarks of how the voice people, I tell people that the voice people, voice actors, the industry has about a 2% asshole factor. 2% of the people are impossible to get along with. And they don't survive because why hire them when you've got 98% of wonderful people to work with? Anna, I want to ask you, you've been doing a lot of video games, so have you, Mara. Have you ever done a session and at the end of it you had no voice left from being murdered and killed 53 different ways in the game? Can you talk, either of you talk about that a little bit without
Not yet.
screaming? But Mara, you've been in that position, right?
I have been in that position. I did a game. I won't say what game. I don't want to call out the director, but basically it was like a military style situation where they wanted my yells to be like, if you're looking at like a note, a musical note, it had to be like a full note, no tapering, no fade at the end. So everything had to be full volume at a 10, so Yeah, it was a little ugly. But luckily after, I mean, I think it took about probably at minimum maybe 4 or 5 days to recover. So now I try to, if I know something's gonna be more strenuous, I try to push those things to the end of the week so I can try to shut up. If only my husband would let me. But yeah. Yeah, it's happened. It's happened a few times. But luckily, I mean, I know that's kind of a big fear for a lot of people. I don't come across it that often. And I do games. I'm in a gaming session probably at least 3 to 4 times a week usually. And it's very rare that I'm in that sort of situation. So luckily that's good news.
Have you had one of those things where they say, okay, now in this scream, you've been stabbed 3 times, and
Mhm.
do that. Then we want you to do 3 times, and you're on fire. And
Yeah.
then in this one, we want you to do you're stabbed 5 times and bitten by a cobra, and then
Yeah,
you're on fire, and then you fall off the cliff. Yeah, okay.
absolutely. Fire's the worst. Yeah, it's just fire's pretty bad. You gotta build it up too. It's like, yeah.
Anyway, now, uh, Mo, you've had most of your career has been spent with all the actors in one room. Now you're working at home. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about if the business never went back to gang sessions? What would you miss about it?
Well, there's a camaraderie that you just can't replicate an ISO session, isolated session. Rob Paulson and I are, I mean, speaking about NDAs, we had like maybe a 2-day window where we couldn't talk about Animaniacs got a season 3 on Netflix. So that was great. But we've started recording the new season, and COVID hit only while we were doing the ADR, the post production. So we felt it's so important for us to do the show together because we work off of each other, that Warner Brothers actually set up 2 small studios on the ranch lot. And we go in, of course, COVID protocol. We only passed each other in the hall once. And we go to our separate booths and we see each other like this. And we're playing Pinky and the Brain where we see each other, because you just get so much more from another actor. And I work better that way. I mean, I was reared on that in the 80s with Frank and with Don Adams and with Dave Coulier and Lorenzo Music and Arsenio. We just gave each other so much, and that's what acting is, listening, and this is an acting job. We're just not waiting for the hair lighting makeup, but this is an acting job. And so to really, yes, it's also acting to be on a close-up, and the other actor went to his dressing room, and an AD is reading you your lines, and you've got to be as good playing opposite that AD as you would be if you had Ingrid Bergman across from you. But it's just, when you can, it's so much better to have the other actor there. So I'm doing a lot on my home studio, but I am venturing out to COVID-safe studios that have protocols where you come in one door and you don't leave out the same door, and you're the only person in the studio, and they Lysol and spray down everything, and you're masked until your line is read. I'm willing to take that risk to get the experience of the most professional sound, and but there are things I certainly audition out of my home studio, and just hoping the vaccines work and we can get back in rooms with each other again. So that's my take on it.
And Anna, you've missed a lot of that experience because most of
Yeah.
your stuff has been in your own home studio, which
Yeah.
is where you do some amazing productions. We're going to be wrapping it up in a minute or two, but if you want to hear Anna's shows, if you want to follow her, let me put you on full screen here. Back to this works better. There you are. Your Twitter and Instagram is at Brizzy Voices. And you
Yeah.
have a YouTube channel. How many videos have you got on that channel now? You must have 50,
Oh,
100.
videos over 100, couple hundred maybe. That's my guess.
Okay, they're wonderful, and
Thank
people can
you.
kind of watch your evolution as an actress because you just get better and better and better and better
Yeah.
on those things. We like those a lot. And Oh, hold it! I just kicked Brock off the screen. Sorry. I just moved you around. Forgive me. All right. Brock is on Instagram at Brock Talks and on Twitter at Brock Vox. And let me do some. Trying to keep track of where everybody is here now. And Mara is Mara, yes, whatever you are, yes. There she is, Instagram and Twitter, same thing. Just learn how to spell her name properly.
See, that was smart.
Mara
That was
Junot.
smart. Yes.
Anyway, yes, and we go to I know where everything is here. Finally, there we go. This is not difficult. Instagram is Maurice with an underscore LaMarche. Twitter is Maurice LaMarche. Follow these people, and as you follow their careers around, a lot. We got just time for me to thank everybody here. These are all very much fun. I hope you all are on a live panel soon, and then we can do one. We're not going to have Comic-Con this year.
No.
Again,
Yeah.
but maybe WonderCon next year I'll be able to get people in an actual room and do a real panel.
Can I just say that as the old man here, I am so impressed with the talent of these three young people, Mara, Brock, and Anna. I mean, I just, when we were reading together, you were throwing out stuff that was original and fun and alive, and I'm so thrilled to get to work with you. I hope I get to be in studios with you, but this has been so much fun, and I'm not at all worried about the future of voiceover with such talented young people, and I get to say that as an old man now. So there you go.
Thank you, Mo.
I can die happy now.
That's
Yeah.
well, don't die now.
Not soon.
Your career will suffer if you die now.
A little bit.
Yes, that's right. So Secunda Wood will get all your jobs. I'm sorry.
Right.
Thank you all for doing this. This panel will repeat on YouTube a lot. Tell your friends about it. Tell them to go see these people on their individual web pages and Twitter feeds and Instagram pages. And anybody have anything else they want to plug? Anything they want to say? Nope. Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Enjoy Animaniacs on Hulu. Enjoy Disenchantment on Netflix, and don't hold your breath for Return of Futurama. And for sure, don't for The Critic. Okay, so it's
The Critic. We never talked about The Critic. That's
well. No, we didn't.
Were you a better John Lovitz than John Lovitz, as I recall?
It's the unsung show, though. It's one of those shows that I just wish could come back. Incredible fun doing it. I love Lovitz. I think he's brilliant. And we just had an amazing cast, and Mike Reese and Al Jean as writers. I mean, Judd Apatow was one of our writers. Steve Levitan. We had just a who's who. Brilliant people.
Very good.
And
all right. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Goodbye for now.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.